Welcome back to the channel. Did you know in United States, in 1993, a man in Portland discovered a hidden bookstore down an alley? Every book inside was blank, except one. It described his life in perfect detail, including moments that hadn't yet happened. He took it home. A week later, he died in the exact way the book predicted. When police went to investigate, the bookstore was gone. In its place, just a brick wall. Elliot stared at the book on his kitchen table, steam curling from a mug of untouched coffee. He had flipped through the journal a dozen times now, trying to convince himself it was some elaborate prank. But how could anyone know the contents of his private childhood memory? Or the precise number of tiles on his bathroom walls, something he'd only counted once during a panic attack in 1989. Each night, he hoped the ink would vanish, that it had all been a hallucination. But every morning, the book was still there and the words had moved forward. It updated itself, describing his actions in chilling detail. Things he hadn't yet done, but would. Like a map of his future, already drawn. Day 2 described a headache he'd experience in the evening. It came right on time. Day 3 said he'd receive a phone call from a woman he hadn't spoken to in years. At 2:14 p.m., his landline rang. The name on the caller ID, Marianne Granger, his sister. They hadn't spoken since their father's funeral 5 years ago. He answered. Her voice trembled. Elliot, are you okay? Why? He asked, his throat dry. I had a dream. You were dead. Floating in water. You looked so scared. He hung up without saying goodbye. By day 4, the paranoia had taken root. Mirrors seemed wrong. His reflection stared a fraction too long before blinking. The shadows in his apartment shifted when he wasn't looking. His cat, Oberon, hissed at corners. Once, Elliot caught him meowing desperately at the closed door to his closet. The next morning, Oberon was gone. There was no sign of forced entry. The windows were locked, the door bolted. He tore the apartment apart. Then, in desperation, he opened the book again. Oberon vanishes overnight. Elliot searches in vain. Later, he hears scratching beneath the bathtub. Heart hammering. He went to the bathroom. Silence. Then a faint scrape. He dropped to his knees and put his ear to the porcelain tub. There it was, scratching, faint, erratic, like nails. He grabbed a wrench and began dismantling the panel. Nothing. Just pipes and darkness. No cap. No explanation. But the scratching continued that night. Even though the panel was now sealed shut. By day 5, Elliot had stopped writing. He had stopped calling friends. He didn't want to be told he was crazy. He knew what he saw, what he heard. The book never lied. He began documenting his thoughts in audio recordings. He kept the journal in a fireproof safe during the day, too, afraid it might write something he wasn't ready to see. But on the morning of day 6, when he opened the safe, the book had moved again. Its page was now dated tomorrow. Elliot will leave the apartment. He will walk 3 blocks west to the old bus station. There he will find a man with no eyes, selling books out of a suitcase. The man will whisper, "It never ends." Elliot laughed, bitter, tired. No eyes? A suitcase bookstore? Ridiculous. But when he woke up the next morning, a voice in his head whispered, "It never ends." So he left. He followed the path described, and sure enough, at the corner near the abandoned bus depot, a man stood under a broken lamppost. Pale trench coat, thin, unmoving. He had a suitcase by his feet, books stacked inside. Elliot approached slowly. "Do you have a certain book?" The man looked up. He had no eyes. Just smooth, pale skin where the sockets should have been. His mouth moved. "It never ends," he whispered. Elliot stumbled back, heart racing. "Who are you? What is this?" The man didn't reply. He simply bent down, closed his suitcase, and disappeared into the fog. Vanishing between two pillars of the station as if swallowed by smoke, Elliot ran home. On the seventh day, the final entry, Elliot decided to destroy the book. He set it in the fireplace, poured lighter fluid on the leather cover, lit a match. The flames danced around it, but did not touch it. The fire licked the edges, but the book remained intact, the pages curling slightly like they were only toying with the idea of burning. Panicked, Elliot threw the book into the bathtub and tried to drown it. But even submerged, the ink did not bleed. The cover stayed dry. Desperate, he drove across the city to Powell's Books, Portland's most famous bookstore, hoping someone there could make sense of it. But as soon as he crossed the threshold, the book began vibrating, humming like a tuning fork. People stared at him. Someone screamed. The book dropped from his hands, and the moment it hit the tile floor, every bulb in the building shattered at once. Elliot fled. Back home, he found the book open to a new page. He tries to run. He thinks he can escape fate. But at 11:44 p.m., in the bath, heart racing, water scalding hot, he will feel a presence. He will look into the mirror and see himself blink too slowly, and then he will die. Elliot shut the book. He paced the room, muttering, No, I won't bathe. I won't even enter the bathroom." But the heat in the apartment rose. The faucet turned itself on. Water poured into the tub, steaming. The lights flickered. He was being drawn in. Let me know when you're ready for part 3, the final 10,000 characters, where Elliot confronts the truth about the book, discovers others who have died from reading similar ones, and uncovers the horrifying origin of the bookstore that disappears behind brick walls. The ending will be chilling and cinematic, perfect for your voiceover video. Elliot blocked the bathroom door with a chair, nailed it shut, and pushed the couch in front of it for good measure. But no matter what he did, the heat still rose from behind that door. Water pooled beneath the crack. Steam hissed out in the book. Waited. That night, sleep wouldn't come. At 3:12 a.m., his landline rang again. Static on the other end. Then a voice, a perfect mimic of his own, whispered, "You're almost ready." He unplugged the phone. The next morning, Elliot snapped. He drove to the city archives. He needed answers. If this had happened to him, maybe it had happened to others. Something, anything. A trace of the bookstore. After hours of searching microfilm, something caught his eye. An article from 1962. Man found dead in apartment after claiming book predicted his death. The photo was grainy, but the scene was familiar. Bathtub, eyes wide. Same posture as the one Elliot had read about in his book. Another article from 1978. Same story. Another from 1989. Always 7 days. Always a blank bookstore that no one else could find. The address? Always a dead end, either a parking garage, a solid brick wall, or a condemned lot. There were 8 victims on record. And no survivors. He kept reading until he reached a handwritten note tucked into the 1989 file. Someone had scrawled in pen, "The book knows you. If you see IT, it's already too late." Back home, Elliot flipped the book to the final pages again, expecting to see the bath, the death, the fear. But the pages were different now. They described the research, the archives, the articles, and then a chilling addition. He thinks he is the last. But there was one who tried to defy the story. She went deeper. She found something beneath the bookstore. She found the architect. The name sent a shiver down his spine. The architect. There was a sketch, crude, almost childlike, of a spiral staircase descending beneath a bookstore shelf. Symbols surrounded it. Unfamiliar runes, geometric patterns, spirals looping into eyes. Beneath the image, a phrase. The bookstore exists outside of time. It finds the curious, and then it writes them. Elliot felt dizzy. His hands trembled. He tore the page from the book and shoved it in his pocket. The next day, he went back to the alley. He knew it wouldn't be there, but he had to try, and it was. The door had returned. No light glowed from inside this time, just deep, pressing darkness. He entered. Inside, the shelves were taller, the aisles longer. The air smelled like dust and old memories. The floor creaked differently, like the wood shifted beneath him. He walked deeper than before, past rows of blank books, until he reached a section marked unfinished. Here, the books shivered on the shelves. One jumped, leaping off and falling at his feet. He picked it up. It was another journal, but this one wasn't his. The name on the first page, Melinda Cartwright. One of the names from the newspaper articles. He flipped through and gasped. Her entire story was here. Down to her final breath. Behind him, something moved. He turned, but no one was there. He followed the aisle to the back, where a tall shelf stood slightly ajar, like a hidden passage. Behind it, the spiral staircase from the drawing. It descended. An impossible geometry sharper than physics should allow, lit by dim blue lanterns that didn't cast shadows. Each step creaked like a scream. He descended. At the bottom, there was a chamber, circular. Books floated midair, spinning slowly, pages turning as if read by invisible eyes. In the center, a large chair faced away from him, high-backed, of wood and bone. And then it turned. Seated in the chair was himself, but older, decayed, hollow. Its eyes were ink-black voids, and its skin looked like parchment. As it opened its mouth, a trickle of words floated from its lips, not spoken, but written midair in smoky letters. I was you. I read too. Far, I wrote too deep. Now I am the architect. Elliot screamed. The ink thing rose from the chair, towering now, unfolding like a story turned sideways. Its fingers were quills, its tongue a bookmark. You took the book, you became a chapter, now you will write others. Suddenly, the blank books flew from the shelves above, slamming open around Elliot, their pages fluttering violently. Felt his thoughts unraveling, his memories being recorded, etched into 1,000 blank pages in real time. He was becoming a story. He woke in his apartment, breathing hard, drenched in sweat. The clock read 11:43 p.m. He ran to the bathroom. The door was wide open. Steam filled the hallway. Water boiled in the tub. The book was inside, floating. He stepped in, slowly, hypnotized. As he approached the mirror, his reflection stared back, but didn't blink. Then it smiled, and Elliot's scream was the last thing heard that night. 1 week later, police entered his apartment after neighbors reported the smell. They found him in the tub, eyes wide, water cold, just as the book had described, but there was no book. And when an officer opened the hallway closet, he screamed. There were hundreds of books inside, all blank. All except one. The final page read, and so he joined the rest, an unwritten soul, caught between pages. The bookstore waits. The story always begins again.